Not listed. The next one. Yeah. I will read it. So this is the on balance. The meat of the yeah. So this is a child.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rupak Kar, and I'm a PhD candidate in the Department of Plant and Soil Science, working with Dr. Wenjan Go in the Crop Ecophysiology and Precision Agriculture Lab. And I'm also serving as the president for the PSS Grad Council. So today, it is my honor to introduce our guest speaker for the PSS Spring Seminar, Dr. Xiangming Xiao. Dr. Xiao is a professor of ecology and remote sensing at the School of Biological Sciences at the University of Oklahoma. His research portfolio includes land cover and land use changes, terrestrial carbon cycle, earth system science, and human-animal environmental health. As a PI or co-PI, Dr. Xiao has been involved in more than 68 projects, receiving a total of US $277 million from federal agencies in 1994. He has authored or co-authored over 400 peer-reviewed journal, paper, and book chapters. He has more than 36,000 Google Scholar citations, H index of 105, I-10 index of 361. He was recognized as a highly cited researcher in 2021-2022 Crossfield and 2023 in Geosciences by Claveriate Web of Sciences. Note that the highly cited researchers are 1 in 1,000 of the world population of scientists and social scientists. Please help us welcome Dr. Xiangming Xiao to share his insights and expertise.
Request. Yeah. Thank you very much for the very generous introductions. I also like to thank Dr. Gore and for your invitations, and thank the Graduate Council for the department did a great job for this seminar series. It is my honor to come to Texas Tech University and to have an opportunity to exchange the ideas for research. And this is I drive past through the city, but this is my first visit to Texas Tech. And yesterday, Dr. Go showed me the campus. It is a beautiful campus. Yeah, you're very lucky to have such a wonderful place and a lot of good facilities. Yeah, and before I start, they contacted me for the seminar, I also like to take this opportunity to exchange idea and looking for some future collaboration. So in that way, my presentation here is more informal and more information and cover some of my research. So I'd like to choose one topic area on this is called multiscale observation and modeling for terrestrial ecosystem carbon and flux and how they relate to the crop productions. Before I get to that, I want to let's see. I want to give a student, particularly for young student here, give you some idea how my personal career path looks like. It might be useful for graduate students in the futures. So I was trained in the school of biology. Got my bachelor degree in biology, focused on botany, a pure plant biologist. I did my work in China and I came to US for my doctorate degree at Colorado State University and trained as an ecosystem science, specifically on the ecosystem modeling. It's like a century model. If somebody is familiar as a soil carbon greenhouse gas modeling, that's a part of my Ph.D. 4-year dissertation work. But after that, I went to marine biological lab at Massachusetts. I started working on a global modeling and trying to quantify these terrestrial carbon, water flux linked with the climate model and hydrological model, ocean model, the energy economic model. We developed a Earth system modeling. So after a few years of ecosystem model, I feel like I can do very well, produce very nice prediction for next 50 years, 100 years about climate change and how the vegetation responds. But there's one problem: how can you evaluate my model? Okay, so there's two approaches to do it. One, you can go to, like I did it for my master's degree. I can go to grassland or forest, and cut the grass and measure soil. There's one approach to do it. It's a great approach. The other approach is to looking for space. So back to the 1990s, there's a larger remote program emerging on the horizon called Earth Observation Systems, led by NASA. It's back to so I decided to join that approach. So I began to look at the satellite data and to use the satellite data as information to understand the ecosystem dynamics, right? So that's a part of become my framework of research. So you can dating back to, I got my 1994, that was I got my doctorate degree, yeah. So overall, these years, my research pretty much can be covered by three very generalized categories. One category is land cover and land use change. That's primarily using the satellite data to tracking where the agriculture, forestry, urbanization occur at a global scale. And second one is how this land use, land cover change driving the Earth system dynamics, particularly carbon, water, and the climate systems. So we do a lot of work on this side of carbon, water. And very lately, in the last 10 years or so, we also begin to ask the question how this land use, land cover change, and also how the Earth system change relate to the animal health and human health. And so we've been working, a lot of research has been supported by National Institute of Health to look into how this virus and the transmission through different animals and then through the human systems. So this is a part of our research. Among all this research topic area, and pretty much the tool I use a lot of is the remote sensing, GPS, and the GIS for those data management, data acquisitions, and trying to use the model as a tool to integrate the information from different components and address a variety of problems we tackled. So for this shorter, like a half hour or 40 minutes, I'm going to pick a few things to talk about it. And one, here's my logical flow, see how I'm going to try to accomplish in this seminar. First, I want to look on the global scale, how we model it and predict a gross primary productions. That was the key carbon flux of the Earth systems. Then I want to spend some time to say how those data we produce on the global scale can be used related to the crop productions at the continental scale. I take the US as examples. So we did a similar kind of work in Asia, in other countries. Yeah. And third one, I'm going to go further down scale, get more close to the surface. I'm going to show you some work being done in this at the field scale that relate to some field work and ethical measurement. So it's from top down to the ground. Yeah. And finally, I would like to highlight a few things. I think it's one thing we are doing. I would like to maybe potential collaboration in the futures. Okay, let's first talk about the model and predictor of a gross prime production at the global scale. So I think that this is the slides many people are very familiar. It's our current understanding how the global carbon cycle will looks like, right? So you do start with, there's a few key flux here. One is the photosynthesis process. So you can see there's about 120 petagram carbon or gigaton carbons are fixed by land vegetations in here. Then you can also have plant respiration, microbial respiration, and decomposition of the lithophore and other organic materials. These are all combined together. You get the respiration into the systems. Then you also have a human emission from fossil fuel component emissions. On the other side is the ocean component. This is the atmosphere component. In addition to the carbon flux, there's also the carbon storages. So there's a important question for global change study is how these individual flux system in terms of photosynthesis, in terms of respiration, how they change over time, how they respond to change of land use, land cover, right? So all this information, they all have quite a bit of uncertainty, right? And how we can model this system, how they change it right now or the next 100 years. So this is the question we've been working for many years. What I want to highlight one approach we've been tackling is how we can model and predict the photosynthesis from very local scale to the global scales, right? So we start to think about this in terms the process-based study. So if we go back to on the botany side, the photosynthesis is very well known, right? You can have a green leaf. You need a green leaf at first. Then within the green leaf, there's two key processes. One process is a light absorption by the chlorophyll pigment, right? The other one is after the light absorption one, it's a carbon CO2 fixation process. We call it carbon cycles, right? Those are two processes there. In terms of these two processes, I think we have good understanding of this component. We have very good data sets on lab measurement. We can bring the leaf to our lab. We can do all kinds of experiments to explore it. Right? The real challenge is how you can scale those lab measurements into the field scale, across the different scale on the plants, the communities, and the landscape, right? To doing that, we need to go back to some required remote sensing. We need to do some basically spectroscopy analysis, really try to understand how the leaf absorb the lights and what the reflectance are measured by remote sensing approach. So I'll just give you one simple example here. It's a different type of leaf, but they produce a different response curve of the spectral properties, right? You can have a spectrum from 400 to 1,000 nanometers. You can see the green leaf versus yellow leaf versus green leaf. They have very different spectral properties. So the question now becomes very interesting is how we can take this spectral measurement 4 different instrumentation, then figure out a way to scale it up from single leaf to individual plants, multiple leaf to individual communities. So that was the remote sensing challenges. Yeah, just keep it one very important for you. You can see here, whenever you see green leaf, it's a very high green color here. It's a relatively low refracted for red and blue bands. Those are the key features. So that means the pigment, the chlorophyll, is a very, very important component, right? So that was the framework we needed to deal with here. You can see the photosynthesis occur in the chloroplast. You have this, then you have a single leaf, you have very different anatomy of the systems. Then you have individual canopy. Now you begin to have plants and branches and the soil component. When you get an ecosystem level, you have more complex, right? When all the way down to the global scale of that process. What I want to take a home for you to think about this graphic is, along all these complexities, there's one sense they are very similar. It's called chlorophyll, right? And the fundamental we want to know how much chlorophyll the system have and how much chlorophyll absorb the light. If we can figure out a way to quantify this amount, the rest of those stuff we call the non-photosynthetic material is irrelevant. So pretty much in mathematics, we have 2 variables. One is chlorophyll content, the other one non-photosynthetic material. For remote sensing communities, find a way to quantify those 2 components and then use the information from the chlorophyll related information and to estimate the carbon cycles. Yeah. So that's why we began to have this framework. So you can see on the chloroplast level, you have light absorption by the chlorophyll. On the leaf level, you have light absorption by the chlorophyll and non-chlorophyll, non-photosynthetic material by the leaf, by the canopy, by the ecosystem scales, right? All these scale issues are reported by different research or different components, but fundamentally, it's can we scale them back to very basis on the leaf or chloroplast level, that information into our modeling framework. So this is the one thing that we're trying to study it and explore it. I want to say the community are working on this. It's making some progress. We're still not fully solve the problem yet. Yeah. So here I just want to report for you like one approach we've been working on and some results to show what the result looks like. I want you to think clearly from this framework. If you have canopy or leaf here, you have 2 components, right? One question people ask is how much light absorption by entire canopy and how much light absorption by the chlorophyll content. I want to keep you in mind is the difference between these 2 concepts are large, very large. They also change over time within the growing season, right? So the difference between these 2 could be amount to 30 to 40%. Yeah. And they change over the season. Yeah. So our approach, as I mentioned here, our approach is to focus on these. And the larger publication or modeling work are based on this framework. So I'm going to use the next few minutes to explain what is this approach. So this is the model we began to put it together back to early 2000, 2004, and 2005. We're using both radiated transfer modeling to test our hypothesis. We also use the empirical approach to try to quantify the information, how you can estimate this component. This could be done empirically. It can be done by radiated transfer modeling. So we are working on this kind of work. Then the key idea is at that time, I was thinking is, can we produce a simple model and to do the work, right? In addition to the complex model, right? As I mentioned to you, when I do my PhD and postdoc work, it's all complex modeling. I want to try something new and simple model. Yeah. So we put it together as a model, and the first the paper and published it back to 2004. So you can see that framework is pretty straightforward. You can have surface reflectance data from satellite observations. And one observation data, you can find a way to estimate the chlorophyll content or chlorophyll light absorption. That was the question here. The other one is to use satellite data to estimate the leaf water content. Yeah, use the leaf water content as an indicator of water stress. Right? So we began to, you can see, use the leaf level information for the light absorption, leaf water content. Then we began to use the eddy covariance tower data to look for some parameters. Yeah. It's a very important one. This light use efficiency counts the parameters. We began to think the information from this parameter can be consistent with the eddy covariance tower. Yeah. So we have a measurement at the ecosystem scales. So our parameter is useful in that way. So it's a very important one. We begin to have this modeling without looking at either moisture from soil or either look at the vegetation vapor pressure on the atmosphere. So this has become a kind of an independent of modeling framework. Yeah. So this is the version 1 published in 2004, and version 2 became published in 2013 and 14. That work, and actually this is one of my postdocs from Nepal. Yeah, so he's now working in the USDA. So we began to do some grassland research work in Oklahoma. Then we began to use this model to address the question drought and non-drought conditions, how they affect the carbon, water, and flux. Yeah. So this is some results. So after we do this side level, the next question is, can we do this globally? Right. So we began to run the model on the global simulations. So to do a global simulation, we have to use some input data. One is the surface reflectance data from satellites, and the other one is the land cover data. Yeah, we need to know if it's C3 plants or C4 plants, because within the cycle, the Kelvin carbon cycle, that one, the C3 and C4, they behave differently. So we need to know that information. So in that case, we also need to know the global land cover map. So then in that way, our research work from the land use land cover change data are coming into this component. Then we also have the climate data. Then we take this satellite data from Terra, and those data on a daily basis. And every day has all the information. And then we can produce data results. This is one of my students. And this is Xiangming Xiao, and he's working as a professor at Peking University. So this is some results we produced for the global. This shows you this annual GPP. You can clearly see like a high productivities in tropical area and also in southeastern part of United States, agricultural systems, and some part of Southeast Asia are very high productivity systems. Yeah. There's also this maximum daily GPP. You can clearly see this our US, the Corn Belt, right? It's a very high productivity systems in here, and a lot of the savanna system, the agricultural system in South America and the Africa component. Yeah. So we produce this data Then we release the data part to the community. I think a lot of people right now use this data for a variety of studies. Yeah. And we're not satisfied for the version 2 of the modeling. There's a key question is every vegetation in terms of photosynthesis process, then maybe have adaptations. The simple examples I can tell you, we have a pine tree, right? A pine tree can grow in high mountains, can grow in high elevation, but they're also growing in subtropic, right? They're all called pine trees. But when they're locally, they're definitely different. So they have different response function to the temperature. So we begin to ask this question, in addition to like a biome type, temperature response function, can we develop a function that's localized for each vegetation type? Think about over many, many decades with their response function to the temperature. So we begin to looking for this concept. Then we begin putting together some way to using it. One is using the elecovariance data. The other one uses satellite data to quantify those relationships. Then to identify the optimal temperature at locally scales, right? So different crop or different grassland, or different tree types. So we do this analysis. We look into all these available elecovariance tower in the community, the FluxNet. We can look at a few hundred sites and then look at this kind of function, then to identify these response functions. Yeah, so we are able to do those analysis. There's one of my postdoc right now. He's doing grad student now. He's doing work on globally. The paper now is under review. If you want to do earlier paper publication, this graduate student already have quite 3 papers published in this topic area. Yeah. So by doing this, we produce a map. This map will show you the optimal temperature globally. Yeah, you can see from tropic area and the temperate zone informations. Yeah. That give you the local ecological adaptation of the temperature response for photosynthesis. One very simple example, give you a case, how much difference. If you do, this red line is a single, we would call biome-specific the parameters. Using in our model, version 2, version 1, but it's also used in majority of a carbon flux model, right? If you look at the distribution of that parameter, you can clearly see there's some bias, right? A larger bias in the system, there's a lot of uncertainty. Yeah. So this is a kind of a work we're working on. And then we take this kind of data, rerun our model for version 3 now. This is the new products. The students is preparation this paper. Then we reported this for 2022. You can see this annual GPP change over time. And the most striking part is this curve. We run the model for 2000 to 22 here. This is the version 2 model we reported in this Nature Scientific Data Journal. And this is the new results. Yeah. Although there's very similarity in here, but there's substantial system changes, right? Yeah. So we can tell you, say, by changing the temperature response function, we can begin to see a lot of difference. There's a lot of uncertainty. I think that the next step also in the future is also more information about land cover type. Where all the soybean, where the corn, sorghum, and all this biofuel energy, the C4 crop, there's going to be a lot of challenges there. So the key message is we made some progress, but I think the global carbon flux, there's still a lot of uncertainty too. There's a lot of work needed to be done. Yeah. So beyond that, I want to use some time to see, okay, we have this data set, and can we use this data set to predict crop productions? in the United States. Yeah. So the way we think about the, let me see this one, yeah. So this one, we take this study, I'll show you one paper we published in 2020, is we take soybean and maize as one examples. We know soybean and corn are the major production in the US and also very important for food security and for rural economy, right? It's a very important crop. So we would like to test it, the approach to see how this information, can we predict those productions? Yeah. The conceptual framework is this. We know most of our agricultural research are interested in the grain production. There's a lot of research already done, so-called harvest index, right? So trying to take it on either biomass to the yield, the grain yield production. There's a lot of research publication on that, and the genomic study breeding is also trying to optimize these conversions. Yeah. And there's also some work done from this called gross primary productions to relate to the grain production. What I'm interested in to see from this one, from the very, very beginning, this gross production, see whether we can see the relationship between here and here. This is the one thing we're trying to explore it for the grain productions. So we're using the data from our model. We're also using the data from USDA, NAS, the production data or yield data sets. Here's one simple examples. On the top graphic here, this is our gross primary production data. This is county level GPP data. And this is the NAS-based the yield data or grain production data in terms of ton, metric ton distributions. If you plot these data sets, here's our modeling. Here's a NAS, the corn and soybean and productions. Yeah. For many years of data, there's a relatively good quality, the correlation between these two variables. Yeah. So on this county level, and for all this observation and the modeling. Yeah. So this is one examples to show you there's potentially we can use the GPP based on the vegetative productivity related to the grain production. So we tested this for different grain crop. This is we also published a paper for winter wheat and rice activities. And we have not done anything with cotton. It's a very different question. So, yeah. So the next step we ask our question is, can we predict it, right? Can we predict it over time, in-season predictions, based on the relationship of the vegetation gross primary reductions and the yield? So we built a model to do that. So this is simple idea is the grain production is a function of the sum of a GPP over the time, right? So this is the curve show you here. It's the dates from January 1st to the end of the years. And this is the model R² value, right? So we want to see if you accumulate over time, as the model predicted over time here, I use your model performance or your model skill can be increased or not, right? You accumulate the GPP. It's a function of time here. So pretty much you can see by the end of July, later July or July that time. So the R² value is in around the 90.9. Yeah. So we begin to able to explain the variance of the data at the 90% of time. 90%. So in that way, you can pretty much say we are about 1 to 2 months before the started harvest. Yeah. So that was the kind of in-season forecast. Can we predict the corn, soybean production, the grain production ahead of time? So that gives us some kind of information about 1 to 2 months of the time. Yeah. We continue. I have another paper published for the winter wheat, and another work on the rice. We'll continue to test it in the US to see what kind of crop, what kind of capacity we can do that. Yeah. So we did this work on county and state scales. I would like to share some work we've been done on very local scale and the crop and the field scales. Yeah. So how we do the modeling and the observation. I was very lucky. I came to Oklahoma in 2008 at the University of Oklahoma, and started working in Oklahoma. I said, okay, let's do some local scale study, and we decided to set up observation systems. This is our dream kind of theoretical framework. We want to do it. I think actually out of all these years, through collaboration with the USDA lab at the University of Oklahoma, we do accomplish all these framework. Yeah. So now we have elecovariance tower systems. We started with the 4 in 2013 and 14. 2 for grassland and 2 for winter wheat. Grassland is one's a native grassland, never plowed. The site we select is El Reno Ford, it's a military space, back to 100 years ago. So never plowed it, so it's a very our reference one. Then we also have a pasture, as a grassland. Then we also have winter wheat. They have a till, no-till practice. So we make that observation at the 4 sites. Now we have all together in their location about the total of 16 elecovariance systems with a variety of these operations, cropland management, and the cover crop. So we began to use those as a tool to understand the carbon flux, the carbon storage of the agricultural systems. Now you can see the elecovariance tower, weather station, remote sensing. You can have thermal remote sensing, and also soil moisture measurement, and then UAV, there's airborne and campaign. We also make these sites become a NASA satellite mission, like OCO2 and OCO3 validation sites. So every time when satellite come in, International Space Station come in, they will acquire data for this place. Yeah, so we really begin to see how this ground-based work linked with satellite observation. So at this place, we do some analysis, begin to look at how a CO2 water flux in winter wheat and compare with tall grass prairies. So how to understand how this land use, land coverage change affect this carbon water flux. And all this side, we also have the soil microbial measurement. So to looking for how is the soil microbial function and composition change over time. Yeah. So this is the key question we've been asked. I just want to mention that I know my colleagues, my student council, they're all from Nepal. I just want to mention he's all, the leader also here is also from Nepal. So this is great. And this side with all those data, we begin also able to look into this pasture, native grassland, winter wheat, to looking for the carbon water flux. Then we can use in our model and test our model in these locations. Then we can do a long-term assessment for drought years and previous year and irrigation systems on the crop and pasture and grassland. Yeah. So this is a very important and groundwork. It's also, I think there's a lot related to the research in this place. Yeah. Okay, so this is was a very kind of a snapshot of what I do in my research. Most of what our research group do. I think nowadays the work is all done by our graduate students and postdoc and the research scientists. Yeah. So. On the way of preparation, I was thinking maybe there's a few areas we can looking for some collaboration between the University of Oklahoma and Texas Tech here. But it's just some sampling, it's not comprehensive list. Yeah. So I'd like to hear more from you on the question and answer sections. One thing I'm very interested in is related to agriculture drought and also wildland fire. Right? Those two things are related. If you look at agriculture part, crop part, you can look at food security. For the other part of one, a lot of soil, the vegetation, water conditions also related to the wildfires. Right? I think this year we have a big fire in Texas and Oklahoma. Right? It's all this one. So there's maybe some common tool for remote sensing data and use it for both approach. The key question over there for in terms of wildland fire is the field type, load, and moisture. Right? Those are questions we ask. But at the same time, when we looking for crop drought monitoring for agriculture monitoring, we're also asking whether that crop, what the moisture of that crop. Right? So this is some the work back to 27. We began to putting together some kind of a framework. This is published in that paper. So pretty much you can see from individual leaf level, here's the timing and the response of the curve. Whenever the drought kick in, you can ask the question when the water is changing, when the pigment changing, when the leaf area is changing. It's a three process: water, pigment, and the leaf. Right. The question is, can we satellite data to identify those? Right. I also think about nowadays we have a lot of high resolution satellite data from both like Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2. The one most exciting for us is a commercial satellite data. Right now, commercially, like a Planet, they do a daily basis, right? They have daily image at 3 meters. So we might be able to tackle this. Yeah. In the past, a lot of people focus on the leaf area. I think it's still too late. We really need to look for the drought or field moisture, look at water pigment conditions. Yeah. So this is the area I think in the future might be, we can find a way to work together. And second one is, I also have interesting things with this plant flora resource. Yeah. And part of the reason is because of COVID-19. We are locked out, we don't go to university. And the only exercise my wife and I did is every day we walk around our neighborhood. Years and after years, one thing I've noticed is that there's a lot of flowers. So my question, talked to my wife, said, can you identify the flower? That's her questions. So I began to look at that questions and began to see how the potential possibility. Right? The message here is like a lot of remote sensing in the past that we all focus on the leaf. We all focus on the vegetation index, right? If we look at the paper, majority of the paper will show you this vegetation index I use and measure the leaf. But now we are getting into this flower component, so it's no longer leaf issues. It is the reflectance. Yeah. So the question is, can we use in the reflectance data to identify different flowers? It's possible because a white flower, red flower, or blue flower, they all have different colors, right? By looking at this reflectance data, we should be able to tease out different flowers. If we're able to teach the flowers, that has a lot of implications for agriculture, and particularly pollinator. Yeah. So it's a huge issues where we can get all the bees or other pollinator and know where they are, and where they can have a spatial supply for their life over cycles. So for remote sensing is also a challenge, but it's also opportunities. Yeah. So this is just giving you one examples for planet scope data. The time period, this time period, it is the flower time. Yeah. And the period over here is the leaf time. Yeah. So we begin to looking for time series measurement. Here is a percent, the number here is percent of leaf. Yeah. So if we look at vegetation index, you are not able to detect it. Or look at the refractance by itself. And you also open the opportunity for using all the machine learning methods to take all the reflection data to do the analysis. And the third one, a very interesting one is this cotton. Yeah. So it's the very beginning. Very recently, we began to look on the eastern side of U.S. This is the Mississippi River on this southeastern U.S. where we can get a cotton. I think the question come up here is now we have a project to do the cotton. It's by accidental. We are starting, we're working on the, I mentioned the soybean, right? Corn. When we map the soybean, my student, the postdoc said, there's some cotton field here are confused with soybean field. So now we need to find a way how to identify the cotton. Yeah. So that's the way we did some research and find a way to identify the open bowl period time and also find a way to look for defoliation time, right? Use that information, then we produce the cotton areas. Yeah, we could call it open bowl cotton areas. And compare with USDA reported planting area and harvest area by counties. Yeah, so these are the relationship. So this is our very early work, just finished a few months ago. Yeah. So now we like to explore possibility on the western dryland side to see whether we can use the information on satellite data to identify this open bowl and the defoliation practice in the cotton fields. Yeah. I think that's most of my presentation. In summary, I want to say a couple of messages. One is this satellite data has to be very useful, will be continuing to be very, very useful. The data is going to be available a lot. And European Space Agency and the NASA, they have produced new satellite data. And my research group are also involved with a satellite mission to try and put a geostationary satellite on space to monitor the vegetation changes. I think this multi-scale integrated observation is the key for both modeling and process studies. Yeah. And the other ones are like the data-driven model, even they're simple, but they are very powerful too. Yeah, I like to suggest people to look into those more on the data-driven model, then combine with a process model to the data model assimilation. That might be the solution. And the most important one, I would like to say here, we have a lot of people are working on the remote sensing. A lot of graduate students are working on. But understanding of plant soil, the atmosphere process is the key. We lack of students who really understanding those plant soil properties. And because we don't have enough people understand that process, our remote sensing future is limited. Yeah. So we put a lot of effort to teach students how to do the imagery processing. They get into the stage of, I'll just do imagery processing without understanding what the fundamental plant soil property, function, and the process. And forget about the satellite data, just one set of measurement. So we really want to make major efforts to educate the next generation of graduate students, emphasize and get more students in plant soil atmosphere science. Yeah. Okay, I think that's all my presentation. Thank you very much, and also welcome you to Oklahoma. Maybe no, yeah.
We have at least 10 minutes to
Yeah.
address questions.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Xiao, for the presentation. Thank you for making it sound so simple, but it's actually very complicated work, but it's really understandable. So one of the things that I want to know, EVI, it's is very important in your model, right? So, but also, so enhanced vegetation index has several factors and coefficients that need to be, I guess, used accordingly and with the different types of ecosystems and so on. So how do you use EVI in your models for that? Do you account for different coefficient factors and different biomes and so on?
Yeah, EVI is a inter-development process. We're all familiar with something called a normalized vegetation index, right? So that focus on the amount of green leaf or stuff. When Alfredo Wittek, the person who developed this EV, enhanced vegetation index, the key question they ask is two. One, can I find a way to look at the atmosphere in the collections? They want to find a further way to reduce the atmosphere impact, right? The other question he asked is, can I find a way to reduce the impact of soil background, right? Because when you look at from satellite point of view, there's a vegetation in soil in the atmosphere. So that enhanced the vegetation index have that one. So he introduced the blue bands as for atmosphere collections. And it also has this soil background for a parameter, right? So the question is like, can you optimize those parameters? So that he, over his time, he's doing a lot of data and do optimization for both MODIS data or Landsat data. That was his approach. So those parameters are kind of set, right? So we using that, it's like take those parameters set and use it consistently. And in our case is we use a different question. It's like, we know the enhanced vegetation index or NDVI, they're all empirical index. So the question is, can we use a radiated transfer model? Like we have leaf level or canopy level radiated transfer model, and then we put it into different composition, right? Monitor at leaf level, the canopy level. So now we can estimate the light absorption and reflectance stuff, then looking for the relationship between reflectance, the empirical data from the index data and the radial transfer model, and do it that way. Yeah. So that's the reason we've been to correlation and decided to use an EVI at this moment as an empirical index. So part of the reason we can run radiated transfer model globally for everywhere, particularly in the past, or maybe it's possible in the future with all this bigger computing stuff. Yeah. Oh. So there's a way so people are still trying to continue to enhance the improve the vegetation index. Yeah. Oh. The other question back?
Yeah. I was fascinated by the optimization, the GPP, I think.
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand. So is that is that an optimum, like a potential for optimum GPP in those latitudes, in those locations across the world, based on the particular
Yeah.
soil type, on the plant type that's there?
Yeah.
I don't quite understand that.
Okay. So, let me see. I don't know how to get it back there. Okay, let me see. I think you're asking for this one,
Oh, it's actually the next one.
this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, this is the optimum temperature. Yeah, this is the one. If you look at temperature response function, this is temperature. Act as the temperature. This is the photosynthesis measured from the eddy convergence data sets. You can see the temperature response. The optimum temperature is this location. Yeah. Yeah, they also this is size around that range, right? Yeah, and also we can show you here is this is for this graphic is if we do this approach across entire global and everywhere at 500 meter resolution. So now we have a pixel. This is the temperature here from 5 degrees to 35 degrees, and this is the number of pixels for evergreen needle leaf forest. It's a one category, one biome, like a pine tree in Pizza or this Apis trees there. So you can see they have lots of variation. Some those on high latitude or high mountain will be in here, yeah, and some on the low latitude subtropical area will be in those cases. Yeah.
Some areas on the Earth's surface where 10 degrees is the optimum.
Yeah. If we
I guess I don't know that much about plants, but I'm a soil guy, but isn't that just always 20, 25 degrees? I mean, why would 10 degrees ever be optimal? I mean, that is what it is, but this is an optimal temperature.
yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out, like, even in those locations, if you were to heat it, wouldn't there be a greater photosynthetic response in plants?
Yeah, this is an important, very important question you ask. It's like these are self-apparent adaptations, right? So if you live a long time in this high latitude or you live in like Rocky Mountains, if you live in a very long time, the plants over there we call apparent optimum temperature. They don't wait until air temperature becomes 20 degrees. Because it's only a few days over 20 degrees, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that doesn't figure out what constraint is.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you give no constraints, it would always be some relatively warm temperature.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Great.
I got a question too. So the VPN model is developed, you mentioned you can actually separate the non-photosynthetic material. And there's many focus on those like a plant-based. I get, my question would be related to the scale. So if you get higher resolution, let's say 10 meters, 5 meters, maybe even 1 meter resolution, with the UAV, you can actually get like a millimeter levels. How would that model handle the resolutions in terms of separating not only the non-photosynthetic material with the plants, but also the soil is actually involved in the whole, like the pixel image. With higher resolution, you think the VPN model will get better or get worse?
The answer is yes. The higher spatial resolution you have, the results will be better. As I mentioned, on the satellite point of view, or our human eye point of view, right? We have 3 components we need to deal with. One is the atmosphere, one is the plant, one is soil, right? Those 2 systems are always there, right? So the high resolution you have, the soil component, the contribution to your pixel is smaller, getting smaller, right? So then you get a more plants component, yeah. And this is one. And the other one is you mentioned is how you can get rid of this, right? So that's why I'm thinking the different vegetation index you need to consider. You need to find the vegetation index that deal with atmosphere component. They also need to deal with the soil component and vegetation component. So in that way, if we look at this over the 100, there's more than 100 vegetation index type in the world. And there's only a few vegetation index that deal with all three components simultaneously. So EVI is one of them. Yeah. So we did this kind of work by, you can use a radial transfer model to test it. The one, if you have very large pixels, you have smaller pixels, your proportion of vegetation, the soil are different. Yeah, that radiation model can help that way. So I still think that the EVI is a proxy. It's still not perfect yet. But just that concept, the most important one is this concept, just like we needed to know this guy. Yeah, we need to know the chlorophyll. I hope as we get a more and more spectral band from hyperspectral luminescence or multiple, we should be able to teasing out the pigment was a non-photosynthetic material. We should be able to separate those two. Yeah. So the more we get, the more science-wise, find the more information about chlorophyll pigment. Yeah, it's get more difficult. Yeah, so particularly on the leaf aging process. Okay, we always think about leaf. We have to be careful. Is the leaf is not a leaf. Okay, leaf has life. When the new leaf is forming, they have internal structure, right? They have internal structure. That internal structure also change over time, over season. So that affect your light absorptions. But in many cases, your chlorophyll content or nitrogen content doesn't change that much. But the ratio of nitrogen and ratio of chlorophyll content versus the other component are changing substantially. Yeah. So if we can account for that leaf level dynamic, we can capture a lot of variability. Yeah. So for any ecosystems, or any biological systems, the energy input is the most important one. It doesn't matter plants, microbial, animal, and human. The first fundamental is how much energy you can acquire. Yeah. If we can capture that phenomena, the other one is relatively easy to handle it. But it's more difficult to identify how much energy you can acquire. Yeah.
There was a conflict with your presentation, and I'm assuming in the model. That's the GPP for the ecosystem, the landscape.
Yeah.
The GPP at the plant level, how does that account for the interactions at the ecosystem?
Okay, let me try. I think other question. Okay, the measurement, if we do like an ecosystem level, on the plant level, we can do leaf level measurement, right? With all the LICO instrument, we can have leaf level GPP, right? On the ecosystem level, we cannot directly measure that in reality. Even for eddy covariance data, it's the estimate. I keep that in mind, it's estimated GPP. So, on the ecosystem level, if we can accounting for, if in this case here, this is the light absorption. If we're accounting for the ecosystem level here, we're accounting for the amount of chlorophyll from the plants here, right? This one is the same thing from here. It's a linear edited. Right? If I think a single leaf here, I have this amount. If I have a canopy, I just add all this together on the ecosystem level, add that together. So that scaling from the single plants to the ecosystem is tracked by a change of this amount. And this amount of change is embedded in the satellite observation. Yeah. So this is the way we think we can scale it up. Yeah. I'm not sure I explain that well to you. You can take examples. Suppose I have an ecosystem here, have a 10 leaf. Example, 10 leaf, right? At the leaf level, I have 3 plants. So each plant have 2 leaves. Five plants, each have 2 leaves, right? Individual leaf here. So this chlorophyll content is linearly added together. Yeah. So it's scaling up all the way. Yeah. It's a linear function. Yeah. Okay.
No. Yeah, so sure, just what given your experience also and work with remote sensing data, is there any particular project or remote sensing to sensor that's coming that it excites you in terms of modeling? So I know there are some projects for hyperspectral, global hyperspectral sensing, or some LiDAR or radar data that you might incorporate. So it's anything that in particular excites you right now, or?
Well, it's hard to say any particular sensors, but in generally, we begin to treat the vegetation from 3 dimensions to look at it, right? So in that way, we can have vertically, we have the kind of LiDAR data, right? So we can have a profile, and these. Then we have this in terms of mass, right? How much biomass in the mass. You also have the microwave data, right? You have active microwave and passive microwave data. Then in terms of pigment, then you have all the optical data, the visible bands, and then you have hyperspectral bands, and then you have leaf water, the short wave, the bands, right? So my reasons, I would really think what I like there are a lot of things people talk about is solar chlorophyll fluorescence. So this is one satellite mission we are involved with called geostationary. We're trying to measure the solar induced fluorescence. Among all these three, I may be really interested is make me excited one in terms of this framework one. It's a UAV system with a shorter wave infrared. We would really like to see the water content in the leaf and how that.
So you're saying you can do that?
We like to do that. Yeah, on the UAV systems, they can have a short wave infrared and track leaf water content. Yeah, because that's on the leaf level, that stomach opening and close is regulated by amount of water in the leaf, right? So it's not completely regulated by soil moisture. It's not completely regulated by air. Right? We're using either soil moisture as a supply, and we use the vapor pressure as a demand to estimate that water stress. I think the remote sensing, if we can resolve that water content within the leaves, that might be the real fundamental understanding how to regulate that stomach open and close. If we can do that one, the carbon water flux will be much improved in terms of modeling. Yeah. A lot of uncertainty right now in terms of carbon flux modeling, water, even the ET is they're using into soil moisture and the vapor pressure. Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess we have to cut somewhere. We have Dr. Xiao's contact in here. If you have follow-up questions, you can ask him either email us or actually relay some questions.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Hmm.